Hello, and welcome to Breakaway with Dawn and Friends. So, this week, I'm going to be raw and real with you guys. So, I couldn't wait to speak to Claudia. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, Don. Thank you for
Because
having me
I'm
again.
telling you, girl, I need my girlfriend time. I need that conversation because life has been lifing.
Sure.
And we all know that that happens to all of us in different ways, right?
It sure does.
So, yes, so I feel I need to speak about this. I do want to first just say I want to do my best to be mindful and respectful
Mhm.
of the other people involved in what I'm about to speak about. But
Sure.
I do also want to say at the end of the day, this is my journey, my experience, my feelings, and my opinions, which I,
Mhm.
am entitled to.
Yes.
But since it's a difficult situation, it's very complex and complicated
Mhm.
and it's just something I'm dealing with right now. It's weighing heavy on me and I just feel these are conversations and things that happen to us every day. Like moments like this, not the situation I'm in, but
Right.
so I just thought it'd be a great conversation, Claudia, because
Okay.
you're equipped with more knowledge than me,
Mhm.
but two, you know me, we're friends, and I feel
Mhm.
comfortable having this conversation with you.
Sure.
And I just need to talk.
Okay. And I'm here to listen, Don.
Thank you. So, um, and recently, where do I begin? So I have a 13-year-old niece
Mhm.
that I am guardian of. She is my brother's daughter, and 2018. So is that 6 years ago? Can I count today? Was it? Well, it doesn't matter. So six
It's
years ago.
about, yeah, it's about, yeah, it would be 6 years actually.
Okay.
Hmm.
So 6 years ago, I unfortunately had to take guardianship of her and bring her into my home and care for her. Because that's what it was at the time.
Hmm.
No one else was available, could do it, whatever the reason. I stepped up and I did it. And I can tell you, it was the hardest thing, one of the hardest things in life I had to do, but
Sure.
I did not have the heart to say no.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I do want to say what's so interesting, and I'm always going to take it back there to my childhood, you guys, is I remember being a kid and in the situation that I was in, I remember thinking, where are my aunts and uncles? Where's my family members? Like, so
Hmm.
that was just something that sat with me. And I don't know if I don't think my other siblings felt that, but for whatever reason, we all process things differently,
Right.
deal with things differently. I just remember having that thought. And so out of the five siblings, I was the last to become a parent, which is not a surprise, right?
Okay.
So I am a great aunt. I love my nieces and nephews like they're a piece of me, like, and I feel that that has to do with also because of what I felt as a child, right?
Right.
So, when my niece was put in a horrible situation and I had to step in, my heart could not say no. I just didn't have the heart. And so and I will say I was grouchy about it in the sense that yes, I have the home, I have a good job. Like there was no reason, real reason at
Sure.
what I mean. I don't know how to say this, but to say it, but I just didn't like that it was expected of me from my
Mhm.
siblings just because they're like, well, you have this, you have this, you have this, you should do it. That's not cool. That's not fair, but whatever. So for 4 years I had her. And
Mhm.
when I tell you that has turned my life upside down, it turned my life upside down.
Mhm.
And I tried to express to my kids because it was so hard, you guys. You have to understand, she's my niece, but we didn't have a bond, right?
Mhm.
Because her and my brother were together. They had the baby. I think at 8 months, they split up. They separated. Years go by, I don't see her. You know what I mean? I mean, I can count on one hand how many times I saw the little girl. Love to
Mhm.
embrace her every time because that's my niece. And oh my God, does she look like me too? I'm like, good Lord. So
Mhm.
there was no denying that that was my niece.
Yeah.
So there was no real bond. Like she knew of me, I knew of her. My
Right.
kids don't remember. We have pictures, whatever, but there was no bond. So you have to understand, family or not, there wasn't. that there was no connection. And
Right.
so this poor girl was like ripped, literally ripped. When I say literally ripped from her mother's arms and, taken away and, I think brought to my, well, she went with her dad first, which is my brother. And then, anyways, then I get her. So, her life was turned upside down.
Hmm.
And yes, she knew me, whatever. But throwing in a child that had that experience, and you have to imagine there were some issues going on there in her. She had to experience some things, been subjected, all of those things, so
Right.
you have to imagine throwing that into my life. And everyone around me is like, no, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. I mean, I don't think there was one person that was like, you know what, Dawn, you should do it. I in my heart could not say no, because I want to be what to her what I didn't have.
Right. Right.
So
Hmm.
I couldn't do that. So I take her in, and I'm telling you, it was the hardest thing. It was so hard. And for 4 years we had her. And I mean, I had to, she never went to the dentist, the doctors, like, she was, neglected, obviously, right? So,
Right.
um, and people, what's so interesting? People would tell me, oh my God, you like, they would praise me and it would make me grouchy. It's like,
Mm.
no, I don't want to hear any praises. I don't want to hear like anything positive, because they didn't realize, nor did I need to share with them, it was such a struggle. And so I would constantly tell my kids, doing the right things, that doesn't mean it's easy. And
Hmm.
I know that we're doing the right thing.
Right.
And I'm sorry you feel you have to share your mom, your life, share everything. Like, it was, I just don't want to go too much into it, but it was a lot. And so, they saw me doing things for her that, I wasn't able to do for them, in the sense that, we always worked separate shifts. So I had my kids, because I
Right.
worked graveyard and my husband worked in the morning. So,
Hmm.
my husband would do certain things like appointments or whatever it was. Like, we shared the responsibility, but with her,
Right.
I had to do everything. But
Right.
I also, at the time in life, had the luxury to do those things. I had more
Hmm.
flexibility, and it was just different.
Right.
And so, I'm not gonna lie, like, we almost got a divorce over this, because it
Hmm.
really like took a toll. And I'm like, I cannot turn my back on this little girl. Like, I don't know, what else I can do or tell you or whatever, but we just need to figure it out,
Right.
because I'm telling you, it got hard. So, and I just keep saying that, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's how you feel.
So for 4 years we had her. I got her really good with her doctor's appointments, school, having, stability, security, all of those things. And um, I don't know, she just started acting out. And, I'm not going to get into details, but we decided, because she asked too, like, she asked to, be with her uncle from her mom's side, or her sister, because she does have two siblings, and they all each have their own different dads.
Mhm.
So 3 kids, three different dads, and all 3 kids went to 3 different homes. So
Okay.
we did our best to keep the three of them in contact with each other and stuff. So the first two
Mhm.
years, like, I did a lot of it on my own. Her sister's dad was very great. Like, I call her stepdad. He was very great in helping me and taking her and like, having that connection with her sister.
Sure.
And then, like, 2 years into it, her uncle, her mom's brother,
Mhm.
finally got in contact, and, he helped out tremendously. And it was a great support. But we got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I mean, she wasn't happy. She wanted to be more with her mom's side of the family, which I totally understood. I didn't take any of that personal. She
Right.
was acting out. Like, I mean, I've had the ground therapy. I did everything I could, So
Mhm.
we got to a point where we decided that she would go with her uncle, her mom's side. So the
Mhm.
past, um, so it's been 6 years. I had her for 4. So the past 2 years, she's been with her uncle. Well, unfortunately, something really bad happened. And
Mhm.
I think, because of what happened to her and the loss that she has,
Mhm.
like a permanent loss is what I'll say,
Mhm.
I think it sent her a little, like, not spiraling, but I think, in my personal opinion, um, she was holding on to this hope of what
Mhm.
her life would be in the future. And so
Mm.
she's like, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get a house, I'm going to do this, and my family's going to be back together again. And so I would always try to like, okay, encourage that, but also find a way to like, but it's okay if it doesn't happen. Like you'll just form a new way. It'll be a new normal. Like,
Mhm.
so I just try
Right.
to do things like that, right?
Right.
Not shut her down, but like at the same time,
Motivate her,
you know,
encourage her. Mhm.
yeah, right.
Mhm.
Um, so unfortunately, that's not going to be her future for her. And I think that that's settling in and she truly doesn't have that hope anymore
Mhm.
is what I'm thinking, because that's all she had to hold on to is the hope of reuniting the four of them together,
Mhm.
the mom and the two other kids and her.
Right.
So I think because now that reality she has faced that that's not going to happen. Um, I think she's like acting out,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
she did run away from her uncle.
Mm.
He called me and we were able to find her, get her to come to my house. And so she's been in my house for a couple days now. And first thing I said, whether you guys can understand this or not, I was like, I hope you know, like, you can't do things like this and expect to get your way.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
right or wrong, she doesn't want to live there anymore. She's not happy. But she pulled that stunt on me 2 years ago, you guys. Like, I'm not happy. She kept like pushing and nagging, push. And finally I just said, okay, let's go. Let's go with your uncle, go
Right.
ahead. So
Mm.
I gave her what she wanted. And then she real quick that she's like, whoa, 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 wait. I don't like this. I don't want this. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Do you know what I mean? So for these past 2 years, I would say, and he wanted space, by the way. Like he's like, let me just let her adjust. So I backed off. I still
Yeah.
took her to her doctor's appointments, her appointments, medical, dental. We would, get her on special occasions or whatever. But I gave them the space that they asked for. But I never denied her, and life just went on, right?
Right.
So I think because of what recently happened to her, things are changing for her.
Mhm.
And she definitely wants to come back to my house, but this is why I said this is going to be a real and raw conversation, because I can't, Claudia, I can't do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I feel so bad, but I'm willing to be there more. I'm willing to do more. Like, again, it was always at whatever they wanted. Like, I was always flexible and open to anything.
Right.
um I can tell you, like, when she would be at like living with me and she would go visit them, oh, every time I take 10 steps back because she was so dissatisfied. And, it
Mhm.
was a reminder that she's not with her immediate family, right? So
Mhm.
I understood when he's like, look, we just need space, let her adjust. So
Sure.
I, from experience, understood that. So I didn't like push for her to come back around or whatever. So
Right.
I've always let them kind of drive that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now, for whatever it is, like she's just not happy. And she, was like, I'm tired of this, and ran away. And then something else happened on Monday where she had to go home from school. So I'm just like, oh my
Mhm.
God, this girl is really acting out for attention. And,
Mhm.
you know, what I found out, and I'm just going to be honest, like, and I get it because I'm sure I've said things too, but her uncle was kind of like, hey, I'm not the one that came up with this arrangement. Nah, I felt like that was a dig. Like, why do you have to say that? Like, we all know she asked for it. We
Mhm.
talked
Mhm.
about it. All three of us talked about it. Like, we all talked about this, and
Right.
and I don't. Anyways, I didn't appreciate hearing that, but that's his truth. So
Mhm.
this is
Right.
mine, right?
Right.
So he knows I'm not willing. She knows I'm not willing right now to do something like that, because it truly did turn our lives. And anyway, it's not like it was before. It's not like it's a dire need. It's not like, yeah, it's just not a dire need. So I don't feel the need to turn my life again upside down, because
Mhm.
now I see it, Claudia. I can see that it's messing, her life is messing with her. It's lifing for her. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Sure.
I'm not equipped. I'm sorry. And I don't have the energy. And, yeah. So I'm struggling right now with that. And so
Yeah.
we're going to put her in therapy again.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
came up with a schedule, so she'll be
Nice.
definitely coming over more. She'll
Okay.
have, she'll be more united with us and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
So I'm taking these baby steps, and I've made that very clear. We're
Sure.
going to take baby steps, and this is, but not that it's a privilege to come to my house, but we have a pool. She has her friends here, like
Mhm.
she gets a little more freedom here,
Familiar to her too. Yeah.
and
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
um, so like her school's up the street, she can walk to and from school. Like
Mhm.
the life is different here. And I would always tell her, girl, you don't even know how good you have it, but that's okay. Like, I understand you want to be with your family, because she complained. I mean, again, all these things I knew they were kid things and I knew better and I did the best, but whatever. She wanted it. So I gave it to her. I'm like, she deserves to have what she wants. You want that? Okay. Like it wasn't a
Right.
punishment or like, okay, there, you don't want to be here, go there. It wasn't nothing like that.
Right.
Um, but we got to a point where it was best for both of us at that time for us to part, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so now, like it's weighing on me that this poor little girl, I don't know how she must feel because she doesn't like to talk. By the way,
Mhm.
she says that she has issues with men. And I think that's because, she hasn't really been raised around her dad. Like I said, they broke up when she was
Right.
8 months old and she didn't really have him around. And,
Mhm.
if I'm being honest, I'm sure her mom was mistreated by men. And so I think she saw that. So therefore, she has issues with men. Like when she came to my house for
Mhm.
2 months on that line, this little smart aleck would be like to my husband, "What's your name again?" Knowing
Mm.
that that's her uncle, knowing his name, she was just like, "What's your name again?" And then like she would, tell my kids, "No, you know, like she knows their family, but she's like, nope, that's my titi. Like she's only related to me." So Puerto Ricans, we say titi not tia,
Yeah.
oh, that's my titi or whatever. Like so, she didn't want to form like a bond with them or whatever.
Blonde.
Like she
Mhm.
was very difficult. Like there's a lot of little things, but anyway, so
Yeah.
um, we can see that, we saw certain things and, anyway, so that's where I'm at right now. And I'm struggling because and I'm sharing this because life will always life, right? It'll be lifing on you. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie, like it can be consuming and I'm not feeling as motivated with certain things. And,
Sure.
it really does weigh on you. And I'm like, I want to share this because I think we're all at some point in life, put in a situation where you struggle,
Right.
and I know I can let this affect me and consume me, but I'm not.
Mhm. Mhm.
And,
Right.
um, but I just thought it would be, something to share. So I'm just curious. I said a lot.
Mhm.
I clearly needed to talk, but I want to know from you, like any thoughts you have, and you're free to say, because I know you know more than whoever is listening, or, mostly. But two, like, I just want to make sure I provide the right and safe environment, but being truthful with her. Because one thing I'll tell you, I
Mhm.
learned when my daughter was younger and I went to a psychiatrist because I wanted to make sure that I provided a safe environment for
Right.
her,
Right.
right? Like I wanted to make sure I did my part as her
Mhm.
mother, right?
Right.
And I remember him telling me, you know, what you're doing is what I would do. What you're doing is a good job. And
Mhm.
you have to understand that it is always best to be truthful with your kids.
Mhm.
And although they don't like what they're hearing,
Right.
they know in their heart and in their mind, they know, even though they're young, because she was 5, they're like, they know it's not coming from a malicious place.
Right.
So, be truthful with her. You don't have to lie or, hold things back or whatever. Like you can tell her, you know, sorry, this is not what it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, because you hate to let your kids down, right?
Right.
So I felt that was the most valuable insight or tip that someone can give me because I'm, first of all, that way anyways, because
Right.
I was telling him how I am, how I did with certain things. And, I don't want to encourage that, but I don't want to shut that
Mhm.
down. I just want to make sure the environment I'm providing is safe. Like, so, we talked about a lot of things. And so that's something people can take away too, is that, you should not only be truthful with yourself, but with your kids, no matter what age they are, right? Like you need
Right.
to be truthful and understand that they know that that's coming from a loving place. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
it's a random
Mm-hmm.
person and they know that has ill intent, yeah, who wants to hear those things?
Of
But they
course.
can distinguish at any age.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding, they can distinguish, no matter how young you think they are, from someone's maliciousness and someone just being honest. So,
Mm-hmm.
I have been very honest, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, and I think that was going to be my first comment to what you're saying. I mean, first of all, just hearing you speak of the situation, I can't imagine how difficult it must be, right? Try to navigate all of it, right? Is try to hold a space for your family, for yourself, for your children, for her because she's in great need. But it's the first thing I was going to say is being honest first with yourself, right? And it seems like that's what you're doing. You're holding yourself um, in a space or in a place where you're asking yourself, can I do this? Am I equipped at this moment to be able to provide a space for her with what she comes with her needs, right?
Hmm.
And that's first and foremost. And I was also thinking how important it is to be very honest and transparent with her, right?
Hmm.
Because you don't want to ever give, never want to give anybody false hope, especially children, right? They hold on to that. I mean, we hold on to that. We're grown adults. A child who's experienced as much as she has, just in general, people need to be start being honest with them, right, and being truthful, because unfortunately, life hasn't been that way to her,
Hmm.
in this circumstance. So, I think first and foremost, those are my two most pressing thoughts that I did want to say. It also sounds like there are other ways that you are already. Um, what is it, taking charge and finding out and establishing a way to help her, right? So it's almost like, okay, I can't immediately necessarily provide this living space to you. However, I do have an opportunity to provide an emotional space for you by creating this schedule where we can visit more, we can spend time, because it seems like that's what she's looking for, that's what she
Right.
needs, without her being able to articulate that necessarily, but her actions speak to that, right? It's the necessity of, I need a sense of belonging because I don't feel that I do in this world. And that
Hmm.
can be very confusing, I mean, for anyone, let alone a child who, again, has experienced so much in her little life, right? So I think that's great, that you're doing that. And I think as time progresses, Don, I feel like you're going to really continue to self reflect and think about all the things that you can do for her and focus more on that rather than focus on the things that you're not able to do for her, right?
Good point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a very good point. Yeah, it's not easy, and when I think of, unfortunately, there are some things that her and I can relate on with our
Mm-hmm.
childhood, right? And so I do understand, whether she realizes that or not. I do understand what, some of the things, because we all have our own journey, by the way, like, you know, and I think people should respect that. We do have it harder, some have it harder, but at the end of the day, like, that's my journey and that was hard on me. Like, even
Mm-hmm.
though, like, if that make right, like, so
Right.
I don't like to compare mine to hers, but
Right.
there's some similarity, is what I'm saying. And so, like, I do understand that. And I mean, I would say she probably had it more rough because I still always had a two-parent household,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and I
Yeah.
know she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's not comparing. I'm just saying, I mean, poor girl, like my heart goes out to her, but I know I'm not equipped now. Like
Mm-hmm.
when she was 7,
Right. It looked
I
a lot
felt,
different. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I felt more like, okay, this is easy. Like, not easy, but like I can do this, But
Right.
I think because life is lifing for her, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not equipped. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have the
Right.
energy. I don't have the
The emotional
emotional.
strength that you
Oh,
need,
I
right?
don't. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's that. I think that I owe you, there's a lot of respect to that, because, you know, I don't think it'd be a good idea to, I don't want to say pretend, but feel like, you know what, I'm going to take this on again because I feel like I owe it to whoever I do, or whatever the thoughts that come with that, or it's an obligation that I should take on, or responsibility because nobody else will. You know, kind of like the way you opened this conversation before we started, at the beginning of our conversation, and you're really sitting and thinking this thoroughly. This is a different phase, stage of her life. It looks a lot different, you know, in this
Mhm.
age. And also, your children are different ages.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, your relationship is at a different space as well. So, all of that, I mean, you literally have to take all of that into consideration. And raising a child is not a walk in the park. Raising
No.
a child is a privilege. Raising a child is a huge responsibility. And, you know, I think that being true to that is far more respectful than someone who would say, you know, sure, I'll take it on. I'll take on the challenge. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So, to your point, and I'll share something, and I don't mind sharing this, but um, since I've already been down this road, right? I know a little more than I did before. Like I in a naive way said, okay, I think I can do this. Let's be honest, I was naive.
mhm,
Um, but my heart was in the right place, right? So okay, so the first year I had her, oh, it was a lot. Okay, so I got her, like, what was it? February? Was it February? It doesn't matter. I remember getting her at a certain point. I think it was February. And then that summer we had her, whatever. So the following summer, so like a year and a half after, like I sent her to Kansas, where my family lives, because I thought it'd be good for her to have time with my mom, her other cousins, and
mhm,
quite frankly, give me a break.
mhm,
And
mhm.
just to give her that experience, you know what I mean, as well, because I gave that to my kids, right? So then I gave that to her as well.
Sure.
Now, what's so ironic, and I want to share because this is deep, is that first year and a half, like my heart went out to her. I mean, I had a soft spot. I tried, like, but when she went the vacation, when she went there in the summer, it was like, wow. Like, then you're like, oh, our old life, like, you know what I mean? But what was crazy is when she came back more appreciative, and would tell my kids, you're so lucky that that's your mom, like, you have a good mom. And so I can tell that she came back and she realized how good she had it with us. But what's so crazy is that all my husband and two kids got softer, but it got harder for me, Claudia. And I
Mhm.
think we've talked about this on the side, and I'm pretty sure I
Yeah.
have not shared this on the podcast, but um, I remember thinking when she came back, I'm like, I couldn't even look the girl in her eyes. Like it all of a sudden, like, it got hard, and I was struggling so hard. And so, like, like I said, when people were praising me, oh my God, you're doing such a good thing, God's gonna bless you, all these things, I'm like, please stop. Like, I don't want to hear that, because I'm struggling. Like, it's hard. Like, I'm doing
Right.
the right thing.
Right.
Don't make me like I'm so great. Like, because let me tell you, it's day to day, it's a struggle. Like, I mean, so even trying to figure that out, like, why does it bother me when people compliment me on this? Why does it bother me? Well, because it wasn't easy, and they didn't realize how hard and what a struggle and the toll that it took. So I was a little resentful, and it's like, please don't tell me that, because I didn't feel I deserved it, because I just struggled and it was hard. Like,
Mm.
I knew what was going on inside, but I
Right.
tried to put my face on. I tried to put, like, okay, you know what I mean, and remind myself. But anyways, back to, so when she came back, me again, you're always going to hear this from me as a life coach. It's my job to question, right? So,
Right.
and this is why I feel I am a life coach, is because I do the work with myself. Like, and I would question
Mhm.
myself. What is the problem? Why is she triggering you? Why can't you, like, I couldn't be soft. Like, I just was like, oh, and I felt I was mean, but she said I wasn't. But I felt in my heart I was, not intentionally. I could not help it.
Sure. Mhm.
And do you know what's so crazy? I'm sitting here thinking, questioning, sitting on it, meditating, praying, whatever. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what is the problem? And then it hit me, which is so ironic. I got her at 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that she triggered my 7 year old
Self.
self.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to hear that term, oh, that's the child in you, like, or that's your 2 year old, your whatever age, right? That's the 5 year
Right.
old of you coming out. Now, I thought I understood that until I experienced it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh my God, I understand now. Like, she's triggering that little girl in me
Mm-hmm.
that had certain emotions, that had certain issues, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I did not face them. I did not deal with them. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh God, you have a sense of humor. Like, like you're making me deal with, with this,
Yeah.
and it was
Right.
so crazy. And we discussed that. And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
Claudia, oh my God, I know why she triggers me. Because I'm telling you, she looks like me, okay? I swear. I'm like, and Pat has my daughter, you guys. All his damn kids can, unfortunately. Um, but not only does she look like me, ooh, I see the stubbornness in her like me, the little attitude, like I'm like, oh, and then it's like, oh my God, that was me. Because yeah, so then there were certain things I don't want to say that she did that I did when I was nervous and I remembered.
Right.
So it's like
So many
she literally,
similarities, huh? Mm-hmm.
yes, she literally
Mm-hmm.
triggered that 7 year old self in me.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized that, I was able to be softer and like work that out with myself, like, you know what I mean? And it's just so crazy when I tell
Mm-hmm.
you that, like, when we talked about this before, like, certain things are just innately in you.
Yes.
And this is why I'm telling you, I feel I'm serving my purpose as a life coach. I
Mm-hmm.
have been through things, I have gone through things, I have overcome them. And it's because certain things were just innately in me.
Right.
And I'm open, I'm always open to learning and to, wanting to know why. And, so
Right.
I do remember that, and I'm like, look at God. He thinks he's funny, like, because he knows I'll suppress that and leave it there till. and
Right.
I and I think I've shared this, that I'm always scared. Remember, I shared it. Like, I was always scared of, like, what part of my childhood, like, where's that baggage? Because it's there. I know it's there. Like, when
Right.
is it going to rear its head? How is it
Right.
going to rear its head? And that has been my biggest fear in life, is
Mm-hmm.
losing it, because I know I have suppressed so much and not dealt with things.
Right.
And I used to think, how am I? I'm not scathed. I can't be scathed from this. Like, there's no way it doesn't have an impact on me.
Right.
So,
Wow.
her coming into our life and turning it upside down, and me being reminded of my childhood and, like, having that similarity, it was. So I hope people now at this moment understand it wasn't just about taking in someone and giving them structure and taking care. No,
No.
it was so much more than that.
Right.
It was a lot.
Yeah. That was, and that's so powerful, right? To come to that realization is, and it's like you said, in your intentions were to care for another human being, not realizing that you were going to experience something that your own inner child was going to be affected by. And it's essentially, it was a parallel process. You're healing with this process as upside down as you felt. It had to, like you said, it had to play peekaboo and say, hey, I'm here. I haven't left. You need to resolve this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and remember, a part of my issues was that I wasn't emotionally available, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, that's how I protected myself as a kid, and all the way up until last year, I've shared that, that, I never realized that I emotionally disconnected myself,
Right.
right? And so you have to imagine her being put in my path.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this on TV. It was so funny. And I'm gonna butcher it, but the lady says something like, "Well, maybe this is put in your path so that you can learn how to love deeper."
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Yeah,
some random show. And when she said that, it touched me. I was like, "Oh my God!" Because of course I love my niece,
of
but to do
course.
what we were doing, girl, I had to dig. You have to dig deep for that love, girl. So I was like, oh my God. Like, in a sense, it also helped
Right.
me
Yeah.
to take back some of that, or unpack some of that emotional baggage that I just had
That you
balled
were
up.
suppressing, that you weren't releasing in any way, right? You weren't showing, you
Right?
were,
Isn't
yeah.
that interesting?
It's amazing. That's how life is, right? Would you say your life is lifing you,
Life
or?
is life in me right now, girl.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it's like, what? But
Yeah.
my breakaway tip is I truly, truly believe um, resistance met with resistance will resist. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, did I say that right? Because I feel the more you resist something, the more it's going to resist you,
Right. And
right?
then,
So
mhm,
you
mhm,
have to, no matter what it is that you're dealing in life, you have to be like, okay, open minded. Okay, what can I learn from here?
right.
Like, what are you trying to tell me that
Teach
I need
me,
to learn?
right? Yeah. What is this life lesson showing up for me today? What is that? What are my
Right?
takeaways here, right?
Right?
Yeah.
When you think about anything, you can apply this to anything, I believe. Life,
Mhm,
friendships,
mhm,
work, whatever,
mhm.
any struggle that you're currently dealing with right now, okay?
Yeah,
Finances, anything, okay? Like
right.
if you really stop and think, okay, why am I like what's going on
Mhm,
here? What am I dealing with
mhm.
and why? If you can open yourself and say, okay, this is a difficult time for me, but what can I learn? I promise you, opening yourself and trying to learn from that tough situation, that discomfort,
Right.
you only grow, and I
Right.
promise the resistance goes away.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that takeaway. I think that is a very, very well put because this is day to day life. Life will life us. It'll teach us every single moment we experience. We don't think we're going to get something out of it, but believe me, there is an intention there.
Right?
And sometimes you'll figure it out in 5 minutes. Sometimes it'll take you 5 years.
And honestly, and I feel the more you resist, the longer it takes. And I've
Yeah.
always in life felt that. I'm like, okay, if I don't accept this and deal with this, it's just going to sit here with me. Right? And this is anything, and I think too, like people should remember that, this too shall pass, right? Like everything does pass, right? but
Yeah.
but there's reasons and seasons, you know what I mean, whether that's people,
Mhm.
situations, like,
Right.
so just write it out, see it through, like
Mhm.
me, like
Right.
I'm choosing to talk about it,
Right.
because that's how I deal with things. Like I have to let them out. You have to understand, I need to be heard. You do not have
Right.
to agree with me. You do not have to like it. But this is why I have a podcast, because I'm
Right.
telling you, I have to speak. I have to be heard. That is a middle child syndrome in me. I'm going to say it every episode. But this is how I deal with things. I need to say them out loud. I need to talk about it. I need to let it
Mhm.
out. And a lot of times, oh, I feel so much better. I overthought that, or whatever it is, right? Like, so
Sure.
I chose to talk about this because it's something I'm currently dealing with. And these are the conversations we would have had right now. I would have called you like, girl,
Right.
like, and we would have had this call over the phone. But this is
Right.
breakaway with Dawn and Friends. I need
Mhm.
to break away from that everyday grind. I need to have that conversation. I need to feel uplifted, inspired, encouraged, like, and I would love to, like you've shared your perspective and your opinion, and there was some validation there for me, which I always appreciate. But for me,
Sure.
this is what this podcast is. I don't want to
Mhm.
be boxed in to a niche or whatever, a specific type of like this is
Right.
everyday conversation,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
hope people can appreciate,
Mhm.
this conversation and take away what is meant to be taken, right? So,
Absolutely.
life will always life, okay? So
Mhm.
embrace it. So keep pushing, keep shining, and keep thriving. Thank you.